Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fifth episode of In Between the Limes. Today is part two of our Pokemon speculation. We just saw Pokemon Day 2025, and we have a bunch of new information to talk about, different reveals. There is a bunch of smaller reveals we'll go over a little bit. I'm here with Joe and Tyler once again, and we're going to see their opinions on the new stuff for ZA and such. Say hello, guys.
Hello, guys.
Yo,
All right, so to kick things off, I'm just going to briefly go over some of the smaller reveals for Pokemon Day. There's a couple updates for a bunch of the mobile games. We got Cafe Remix getting an update, we got Go getting an update, we got Unite getting an update, just different Pokemon being added to all these and different things like that. Sleep got an update, and we did get confirmation of Concierge Season 2. We saw a little bit about that. I'm excited for that because I saw Season 1 and enjoyed it a lot. But to kick things off, let's just jump right into Legends ZA. What did you guys think of the trailer for that and the new starters and such? Tyler, what do you think?
I thought that it was a pretty decent trailer. You got a good view of the city overall, a good sense of the scale there. I was 2 for 3 on the starter, so I'm pretty happy on that. I'm going to turn it over to Joe real quick.
I thought the starters were good. I thought the city was good. I'm a little surprised they did 2 Johto starters, as I'm sure everybody is. I mean, if you want to go, I think kind of like we did last time, eliminate starters based off if they had Mega Evolutions or if they were used before. Um, Gens 2, 5, and maybe 7 seem like the kind of the most likely ones. Um, but I was surprised that they used 2 from Gen 2, although I really like Totodile. Chikorita gets way too much hate. If you're a Chikorita hater, can it? Um, but I don't know. I think whether they get megas or if it's just new forms or both, I honestly I think this is a pretty solid trio. Um, I mean, I'm excited to play with any of them. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wish they showed us. Maybe not one of the starter final forms, but like I wish they showed us a new mega or something to get kind of. I mean, people are gonna get going regardless, but in terms of new Pokemon, I don't think there was really anything besides the Eternal Floette being like for sure in the game.
Yep.
Um, Besides that, I mean, nothing really new to. It's I feel like it's a lot of the same amount of speculation as before. They confirmed some new Pokemon, like Patrat is longer locked in Pokemon Home like it
Mm-hmm.
used to be,
Yeah.
but um in terms of new Pokemon, there isn't anything yet.
Yep.
Just yet.
Yeah, they've only shown Pokemon from that have already been in Kalos before. So everything that's been shown so far is from the X and Y decks. Not counting they had I think Mega Sableye and Mega Altaria were shown off, and those are from Oraz. So it's good to know that those Oraz Megas are coming in. I expected them to, but it was kind of a weird thing to think about. Like, I don't know how that's going to work. Mega Evolution was kind of locked away in X and Y in the post game, so I'm kind of curious if this is going to be a more prominent thing for the main storyline of the game. I feel like it will be since they're pushing it so hard, but you never know. X and Y pushed it pretty hard, and they didn't really show too much in the early game besides like a Mega Lucario and some hidden away ones. But uh, for the starters, being Chikorita, Tepig, and Totodile, interesting picks. I know Chikorita and Tepig specifically are not the most popular of starters, so I'm
Yeah.
kind of surprised they picked them a little bit, but at the same time, I'm kind of happy to see that they're picking less popular starters and giving them kind of a revitalization because you can't always pick the super popular ones every time. I think it's good to have the more unpopular ones just to kind of give them a breath of fresh air and maybe find a new audience.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
think there's
think
plenty of
that
room for them
Totodile
to
is
grow.
pretty solid. I feel like they could have swapped Chikorita for. I think if they swapped Chikorita for Turtwig, one that hasn't gotten a Mega, hasn't gotten a new form, for Torterra, I feel like that honestly would have made it. I feel like that would have changed kind of a lot of it. 'Cause I feel like a lot of people hate Chikorita just from the get go, and a lot of people don't seem to like Tepig. But I feel like changing Chikorita to Turtwig, one that hasn't been really given an extra form or anything like that at all, would make it kind of more solid for general crowd pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you looked at the poll from the Pokemon uh, Twitter, maybe, um,
Yeah, I think
they
so.
did a poll somewhere. It was either on Twitter or YouTube or whatever. But I
Yeah,
think like 40% of the people or more. It was a significant lead for Totodile being picked, which is not surprising. I mean, I really like it.
yeah,
But I like all the Gen 2 starters. I definitely think Chikorita um, is underappreciated.
that's fair.
Yeah. I think the problem with Chikorita, honestly, is it shares a lot of traits with Bulbasaur, but is just generally. I think Bulbasaur is a little better designed in general. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say Meganium is worse designed than Venusaur, but those are the first things you see when you open the game, and I don't know. Chikorita's got kind of a weird shaped head. I mean, I like the giant leaf up top, but the rest of it's just kind of it's a little goofy looking. I don't know. It's
Mm-hmm.
not. I'm kind of glad they chose it because I think there's a lot of room to grow there. It's nice to give those Pokemon some love that they didn't get before, and I think Meganium, it's a little bit simple. I think there's a lot you can do with the Mega there that's interesting.
Yep. Yeah, it hasn't had any like real attention from any of the games in a long time. I mean, the last game it was a main starter and was Heart Gold Soul Silver, and that was many years ago. So no
Yeah,
Mega, no
true.
new form, no nothing. So it's definitely overdue for something, and it's one of the most unpopular starters out there. So I think it's definitely deserving of something new. So I'm hoping for I don't know if they're gonna do megas or regional form or maybe both. I don't know, but it needs some new type of form. I feel like they're probably going to do regional forms again. It makes the most sense. The most popular typing for that is like Grass Fairy. That's what I'm seeing most people say. There's some people talking about how Chikorita now learns Disarming Voice, which is a Fairy type move, and it never learned that before. So if that's part of its learn set, it might be pointing towards being a fairy type in the future. It was kind of the same scenario for Popplio. It learned Disarming Voice, so people were theorizing it being a fairy type back when it was being talked about. Um, I think Grass Fairy would be perfect for it, but I always feel like Game Freak never really picks the obvious choice. Like, if they're looking at these three, if we're going to be honest here, I feel like the obvious type picks, if you're going to make a new form or a new version of them, is Grass Fairy, Water Dragon, maybe, and like Fire Dark. I feel like those are the three obvious typings that you could put with them. But I just don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to do something weird and unique that you wouldn't expect. Maybe it'll be like Grass Ghost, Grass Psychic. I don't know, something a little different, but I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like it's pretty good confirmation giving it the fairy type move because I don't know. I feel like it's the natural step. Me personally, I think they're going to go with Mega Evolution over regional variants since they just brought the mechanic back. I think using Mega Evolution as the new forms is probably going to just kind of tie in better thematically. I don't know if they're going to do any special Kalos forms for these Pokemon. I don't think we saw anything that indicated that, did we?
Well, was
I
they
don't know
didn't
if
do
they
that
really
for the
showed
other
that.
ones either.
Yeah.
Legends Arceus didn't have any indication for that either.
No, not when it was first announced.
No, they
Yeah, I
were
think they just showed the
announced.
starters. Yeah.
Yeah, they were announced really late, like a month before the games came out.
Yeah. Well, I guess they could do it. I guess maybe it seems a little weird to do it then because I guess those games took place in the past and these ones are like it doesn't seem so far in the future that it should be that different, but I mean I'm
Yeah.
not opposed to it. I think there's fun things you can do with it there.
I do
But
agree, though. I think the most likely thing for Chikorita, especially given I don't want to say leak or whatever, but they showed Chikorita having a fairy type move that it didn't have before. I feel like that kind of points you in a direction. As much as it might be cool for something else, I think that one's kind of a given. Although I think that
yeah.
does leave it to a lot of designs that kind of are fitting for it. I have seen one where it was just Embor was still. I think it was a Mega Evolution, but I think it was still firefighting, and then Totodile was water steel, so you have fighting steel fairy type triangle
Yeah.
on that, which it might not be the most interesting type for Embor, but the designs that I've seen people make are cool. I think it really depends for a lot of things on if they just execute it right, because I feel like you could make water steel or water dragon look cool for Totodile, but you give it to the wrong person and it might not be great. Like I really like Typhlosion, not the biggest fan of its Hisuian form. Like
Mm.
Hmm.
it just kind of tones it down for me quite a bit. Um,
Looks a little
so
Joey.
it really depends what they do with it. People have made some really cool designs. It really depends. I mean, Tepig could end up being really cool, or it might be a whiff. Who really knows?
Yeah, I'm really
Yeah.
curious to see what they do with Embor because again, I said this before, Meganium pretty simple. I feel like there's just so much you can do with a Mega there. The other two, they've got a little more going on. I mean, for Alligator is an alligator, but I think it's got like a more like, it's got like more texture. You can see like the scales on its arms and stuff. So I am wondering where they'll go with that. But Embor is probably the most complicated design of them all. So I'm wondering how you elevate that.
I'm
Uh,
thinking it's either going to be the most interesting or the least. I think it's either going to stay firefighting or they're going to pick a weird type and make it completely different.
I wonder if it's going to be like a weird color or something. Like, how Mega Autono just turned all white for some reason? I wonder if that's going
Yeah,
to happen
maybe.
more.
I don't know. They might go a completely different direction, or it might be like, not that Charizard Y isn't cool, but like where it's kind of just Charizard but with more features on it. It
Hmm.
might it might
Oh,
just be like that.
yeah, and I like Charizard Y, honestly. I might be the only person that likes the Y Charizard over the
I mean,
X
I guess to
Charizard.
be fair, Mega Venusaur and Mega Blastoise didn't really change typing either. I think Charizard X is the only one that changed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
and I think abilities and stuff are important too. Like in one of the ROM hacks I played, they made Meganium Grass Fairy, not a Mega, mind you, but they made it Grass Fairy, and they gave it Triage, which is that ability that gives you priority on the self healing moves. I thought that was an interesting take. So I think we gotta wait and see what they do with the mechanics of it too, because I think Megas, forms are obviously what you see first, it's what you react to first, but there's a lot of interesting stuff you can do with it mechanically too.
I don't think they had abilities in Legends Arceus, so that makes me wonder how it's gonna work in this game. Because if they don't have
yeah, I don't think they had
abilities,
held items either, didn't they?
yeah, they didn't have those either. But
So I think they have to for Mega Stones though, but I could be wrong.
I read online that
Um,
the Mega Stones are like in the Mega Ring. I don't know. I didn't see it when I looked at the trailer, but it does sound on the website that the Pokemon is to hold the Mega Stones. I'm very confused how that works.
I
Without
always thought
held
it'd be cool
items,
for a
I just don't know how
I
that's
thought it'd be
gonna.
cool for a game like this if they let you buy like accessory, especially because it's not every Pokemon that can Mega Evolve. It's like a select few. If they had like accessories you could buy for your Pokemon, so it would show up in battle, but like you have, kind of like they do with the like in the anime or the show,
Mm-hmm.
where you can visibly see it. Like some of the Pokemon have it on like specific, like, I don't want to say clothing, but like I want to say the guy with the Mega Blastoise had like a harness or something around it that had the Megastone in it. If you could buy different things for your Pokemon that had the Megastone infused into them, I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I doubt that's happening.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Elaine from the anime had like a Charizard with like a big like band around it that held the. I think it was a band or maybe
Yeah,
like something around its
I think
neck or
I
something.
think multiple ones did.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Yeah.
I know some people are asking for Mega Ring customization because there's a lot of fancy ones throughout like Auras and X and Y, just like gloves and like random like
Yeah,
bracelets
that
and
would be cool
shit.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, people really want to see that.
Oh yeah, I just found the picture. Yeah, the one from the anime, the Mega Blastoise has like it's like the pendants or the Megastone's like in the middle of his head. He has like a weird he has a like weird leather thing around his head that holds the Megastone in the middle. It's kind of
mm,
neat.
yeah, yeah, I feel like that would be cool to have that to be able to customize your Pokemon like that.
It'd
Mhm.
also be
Especially
cool to
because it is only select few Pokemon. It's not like Dynamax or anything can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be cool if you could customize your trainer like that too, like have different like places you could put the Mega Stone. I feel like when you played through Kalos the first time, they put a really big emphasis on trainer customization, like the city having fashion and stuff. I
Yeah.
think if you could do like I don't know, I know there's been some weird ones in like the anime with like I think people have had like necklaces or
Well, yeah, I
fucking
was saying that earlier, like
earrings.
customized
Oh yeah,
rings in different ways, like bracelets and shit.
yeah.
There's a lot of fancy ways you could have that keystone embroidered into your person. Um, what do you guys think about the new battle system?
Uh,
I think it'll
I
be
don't know.
interesting. I think it'll make it kind of fun. I'm honestly the thing I'm wondering is because you can like in the normal game you can switch between you can switch between switch and set. I'm wondering if they'll just have an option to turn it off. Um, I think it looks fun though.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll make battles that are like maybe battles that are versus early game trainers where they're like low level. It might make them more interesting, but it also could you know make them more tedious. If like it's somebody who has like a level 2 Pidgey or whatever, you're just like please let it die. It might make that more tedious, but I think right now while we're all excited, I think it looks pretty neat.
Yeah, I like that you're able to like select them to dodge and stuff. It's kind of cool. I think that's something people always kind of wanted to see because it was an anime and they're like, oh shit. I mean, that'd be fun to have as a mechanic, but I don't know how you would implement it. But it looks like they're
Yeah,
trying to
I think
push
it's a
for
little
that.
weird that you move like the trainer moves with like kind of with it. Like I would have preferred the trainers stay back and you kind of just control your Pokemon. Like still third person, but like you control I thought that would be more cool.
Yeah, you control their
Yeah,
movement.
Because I
I
think that
think
I think that makes it less like I think when you have to move your person and have your Pokemon follow you, I think that's gonna it might be harder to dodge moves. Maybe is the way I'm gonna put it, but I think it might just be a little harder to control.
Yeah, a little,
If
maybe a
little
you're
little.
buggy.
moving it from like a secondary person rather than
Mm-hmm.
being the Pokemon itself.
My concern with that though is I think like you give too much control to the Pokemon, I feel like you start to just want to like have more like I feel like where do you draw the line between that and like Pokken, like where you're actually just like physically inputting the moves. I feel like it's good to have the distinction between like being the trainer and being the Pokemon.
I'm wondering if it's still turn based at all, or if there's like a meter on like if you use a move that has a lot of area of effect or whatever, or if it is turn based. Like I wonder if you have to like if you can dodge, but that takes up a turn or something like that. Like I don't know.
From what I've seen, it's just like there's no turns at all. Like it's all cooldowns for attacks and like energy
Yeah,
bars for Mega
cooldowns. Yeah,
Evolution.
that's what I meant. Yeah.
It doesn't seem like there's any like, oh, you go, no, I go kind of stuff. I do think you guys both have points. Like on one hand, I do think the dodging might get a little wonky because like I don't know, the AI might be a little like screwed up, and I just feel like they might like run away weirdly into like a wall or something. I don't know. I feel like it'll like not work as well as it sounds, but I have still yet to see that. And it might be kind of frustrating to get them to dodge some certain types of moves. Because, I mean, depending on how many moves there are, wouldn't there have to be like programming for each type of move and how to dodge each type of move? I don't know. It seems kind of complicated. But on the other hand, I do think controlling your Pokemon seems like a little much. I feel like there is a cool way to like make you feel like the trainer by having the distinction of you commanding it instead of you actually just being it and walking around. Um, that does feel a little bit more like Pokken tournament where you're fighting as the Pokemon, but I do see both sides of that. I think the battle system looks interesting. I do need to see more out of it. I did like Legends Arceus, how they changed it with the different like styles, agile style, and I forget what the other one, strong style is. Um, it was a cool way to mix up the battle system. So it seems like they're really pushing to keep changing the system in this game too. Uh, but it does concern me there not being turns because it feels like the game's changing into something else entirely, which may be a good thing. I don't know yet. I just need to see. But do you guys feel like it's changing a little too much, or like, are you happy in the direction the battle system's being messed with?
I'd say for Z, it's still a Legends game. I think it's good that they're experimenting here,
Mm-hmm.
because then they still got
That's
the
fair.
mainline franchise to fall back on if they really need to, and they can always just make another like old gen remake or something if they need to go back to formula. I honestly think Pokemon's at the point where they should be trying to experiment more. I mean, we're 9 gens in here. You've got to learn to keep things fresh, and not everything's gonna hit. Not every new mechanic introduced has been great. I think some people didn't even like the idea of Mega Evolution at first. Me personally, not a big fan of the Z moves. I don't think I was
I
the
forgot
biggest fan
about
of.
Z moves.
Yeah, Z moves were Z moves were kind of a miss in my opinion. And not a very good one either because it was just a super powerful move that was kind of a little cheap and
I
pretty
do
much
kind
just
of
item
like that more than
replacement.
Dynamax, though. I think that was kind of
Dynamax
kind
was
of
just
goofy.
Dynamax. The mechanically was just not good. It did what it kind
Dynamax
of did
kind of
was
seemed like they were
expected.
just trying to redo Megas without doing Megas. Like there's the whole big aspect, but they gave some specific ones, other like special forms. Like it just seemed like a workaround. Like they wanted something that was like, oh, new forms for Pokemon. That's cool, but they didn't want to. I don't for some reason they didn't want to just do Mega Evolution, something that people pretty consistently like.
Yeah.
I
I don't know,
think,
I think it's good that they're switching it up for a Legends game, kind of the same as what Tyler said.
yeah.
Um, I think this is a good place to experiment. I am a little. I don't know. I always assumed that Legends was going to be just consistently passed. Like I thought it was going to be like history of legendary or mythical Pokemon. So it's a little weird that it's in the future, personally. But I think, I don't know. I think it looked solid. And again, I think back on topic, really. Yeah, I think this is a good place to experiment with stuff like this because if you keep, um, especially if you keep printing out new games and not trying to revisit old ones that we haven't seen in 15 years that people have a lot of nostalgia for. If you keep doing that with the same formula with not any changes to the battle system, I mean, people are still gonna like it, but they might not love it. Like it's not gonna be as hyped up as it is. You
Hmm.
got to do something fresh.
Yeah. And I feel like the past, like every Pokemon game, I do feel like iterates on battle system just slightly. I mean, from Kanto to Johto, we had held items, which is a pretty big deal, and we also
Hmm.
had this split between special defense, special attack, which is also a pretty massive deal. I mean, some Pokemon are completely changed by that. Then to Hoenn, we had double battles, and we also had abilities, which was probably one of the biggest things that they've introduced. And then from there in Gen 4, there wasn't too much there besides I think Nature's was no Nature's were in Gen 3 actually. They added some stuff like that, and they also had the physical special split, which was pretty big for a lot of Pokemon too. So that was the biggest thing there. Gen 5 added triple, which were not pretty. I feel like that's probably the least impactful thing they've ever added, and
You don't
rotation.
want rotation battles. You
Yeah.
don't want
Rotation.
rotation battles.
That
No, that was
stuff.
kind of a miss.
Gen 5 probably had the biggest miss in terms of like updating the battle system. I think they just didn't really care that much.
It was so funny.
Then Gen 6 decides to take a pretty big leap and go with the Mega Evolution. The pretty common complaint with Mega Evolution is that, and I kind of get this, but it's too limited on what can use it and what can't. The whole idea, I think, with everything following it was they wanted to make a mechanic that can be used on any Pokemon, and Mega Evolution is the only mechanic that can't be used on everything. It can only be used on like this small, hand-picked handful of Pokemon. And I think that was probably the biggest issue with it. Plus, some of them are just too good and too strong. And then with Z moves, I think that's what was trying to be addressed is that they gave it any Pokemon the ability to use it as long as they had the right type of move. But they still wanted to make special Pokemon that could use it, so they added the exclusive Z moves too to certain Pokemon. And I feel like this was pretty much copy pasted into with Dynamax and Gigantamax, where some had forms, some didn't. Dynamax, I do feel like works better than past mechanics, at least in double battles. It works. Maybe not singles. Singles, it's a little too strong, but double battles, it's a lot more balanced. And then after that, what was after that? Gen 8, Gen 9. Gen 9, Terra. Terra types are
Yeah.
probably the most balanced from what I've heard. Maybe? I don't know for sure. They're changing type is a pretty big deal, so um,
Hmm.
I don't
And I
know.
think I think for most tournaments and stuff, they make you kind of tell, like, I think on your team sheet, which I think is available to the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
player, they make you say what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So you know if you might if you don't know about that, you might be like, oh, element of surprise type stuff. I honestly think that would be better. I mean, obviously, if you're playing in a tournament and you watch somebody else's matches, you'll kind of figure out what they have. But I think that would make it more interesting, where you have to predict, like, oh, hey, this Pokemon is weak to that. Are they going to switch to a type that resists or is immune to this, or something that might give them more stab on other moves? I think personally that would be better for it, but the way that competitive runs, where you usually know what Terra types are running, I think that it's going to be the most balanced you can really have something like that, where
Mm-hmm.
it's used by every Pokemon.
Yeah. And I mean, they're bringing Megas back now, so it's. I'm wondering if this is going to be. I mean, they're adding a new game now, Pokemon Champions, and from what we've seen, this game is going to be like the Pokemon Showdown, but like officially. And you can use any gimmick. They showed Megas versus I think Dynamax or something.
I think it
Um,
was Mega
Yeah, that's
versus
correct.
Terra.
Oh no, Mega
I was
versus
just gonna
Terra.
bring that up.
Terra?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Terra. Yeah, so now you can use any mechanic, which is pretty big. I feel like some people were saying online that the only reason this game was even made is because of Terrapagos, because its base form can't do shit, because it's got the lowest, like some of the lowest stats ever, and it needs to have its Terra form in order to even do anything. Um, So this will be a great testing ground for like different gimmicks. I'm excited to see. I'm guessing Z moves would be back, and so would Dynamax and stuff. I don't see why not if they're adding Terra and Megas.
Yeah.
So that's what any new Mega in this Legends game is pretty much going to be probably used in that game. Uh, so I'm excited to see what they do with that. What are you guys' opinions on Pokemon Champions?
I think it looks pretty awesome. I mean, I'm really excited. The one thing that I don't know if I want to say concerns me, because they made it seem like it's kind of its standalone thing. They said that it would connect with home and that you could like use your old Pokemon.
Mm,
It seemed like it wasn't only using your old Pokemon because I've seen a lot of people complaining. I personally don't think it's that big of a thing. Um, like if it like say you have Pokemon at home and it just kind of like copies it rather than you having to put it into the game and like have it specifically in Pokemon Champions. But one thing that people really like about Pokemon Showdown is that you don't have to find it, catch it, train it, all of that. I mean, it is kind of rewarding personally. I think that's a lot of the fun of the game. But for the people who just like battling, they usually just like, I want to use this Pokemon. They just make it. They give it the moves they want. Like people just kind of want to create the Pokemon that they want to use in battle. So people seem like they're a bit worried that that might not be exactly how it works. To me, I would honestly be fine with it either way. Although I do think that if they with the home connection, it would be better if you kind of copy over a Pokemon that you trained or had from the original games. I think that's cool that you can do that. But I'm hoping it's a copy over thing and not that you like physically have to have the Pokemon in Champions or you have to have it in one of the other games. Like you can't do
I see
both.
what you mean. Yeah. I'm kind of worried about so like Showdown, you can edit almost like any part of the Pokemon. You can make it shiny. You can change its IVs, EVs, attacks, items,
Hmm.
abilities. I feel like this Champions game is gonna have some of that. I think held items will probably be something you can customize. I'd guess. I feel like I don't know why they wouldn't. And maybe moves. You could edit the moves. I don't know about that, but I feel like the one thing I know for sure they would never have is like an IV EV slider. I just don't.
I wonder. Yeah, I was wondering if they were just gonna like remove those altogether.
I mean, that's part of the
Like
battle
not from
system,
the
though.
series itself, but just for Champions. I was honestly wondering if they might just remove the kind of hidden values for Pokemon.
I don't know how that would work because that's part of like their stats. So like, how will you battle without having any like stat markers like that? Because I feel like that's part of the
Make them
reason why
all a
you would.
flat number. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you make them all perfect IVs, but I mean, the problem with competitive Pokemon is that sometimes you don't need competitive like a perfect IV. Some people like having
Yeah, yeah,
zero
like sometimes you
IVs.
want you want less speed
Yeah,
for
yeah, less
specific
speed.
things or more.
That's what I'm not sure about.
Yeah, I think this game's gonna really have to do. It's just gonna have to be Showdown, or it's just gonna probably. I wouldn't say lose to Showdown. I think having a mainstream line that's also accessible on phones, which I'm shocked they did in a good way. But
I wouldn't say I'm shocked, but yeah, it's definitely good.
it just seems weird because this is the first time we've had like it's the closest thing we've had to mainline Pokemon. We've had the Masters games, we've had the trading card games. They're all pretty distant from actual Pokemon battling, but I think this is as close as you get to mainline battling on mobile, which is
Okay,
an
well, the way I'm
interesting
gonna put
step.
it is they have home on both. They have home on Switch and on mobile, and home can connect to games on both. Like it can connect to Go. I think just with having it connect to home, I think it just I don't want to say it's necessary, but I think it just makes sense to have it on mobile as well.
Yeah, and I
They've
think
been
that's
doing
a
a lot
good.
more stuff with mobile and connectivity too. I mean, you
Yeah.
can transfer a lot of stuff from Go to home now. I think Hoopa Unbound you can even transfer from Go to home now.
Hmm.
So it's kind of nice that I mean some of them you can't trade in game, but a lot of the mythicals you can get from raids or whatever and Go you can kind of work around it and get them in home now and get them on games where if that connectivity wasn't there, like when's the last time Hoopa was available? Is a giveaway or
Yeah,
whatever. Like how
that's
would you get
tough.
that if it wasn't for Go? So it's kind of nice that they have connectivity like that.
Yeah, but the issue still is, there's plenty of people who probably haven't played or bought every Pokemon game, and if those people are gonna get screwed over by not being able to make their own Pokemon in Champions, I think that's you're still gonna lose that audience because the nice thing about Showdown is, and I don't think people are necessarily opposed, raising their own competitive Pokemon and trying them out too. But Showdown's nice because if you have an idea you want to test, a strategy you want to test, you don't have to do. You can do all that hard work after you're sure that it works. If you have an idea, you get something to level 100 with perfect stats, and you find out it's just not worth it. I mean, you've just
Oh
wasted
no, I get completely
time.
what you mean. I mean, I made a doubles team on Showdown before I went out and like I think I shiny hunted like either Tornadus and Thunder or one of the two genies, and then I also shiny hunted Heatran, specifically for a team that I made, and then I used it a little bit in Scarlet. Oh, it was Landorus actually. Actually no, it was Landorus and one of the other two because they have, I don't know, they have really good setup moves.
Hmm.
One of them had Tailwind and something else, and then Heatran. I had like Terra Grass with Solar Beam. I don't know. There was a bunch of fun stuff that I tried out, and then I went out and shiny hunted them after the fact. So I completely get what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the only way you win here, you have to give the players absolute freedom. That is the only way you can beat Showdown. And even then, I mean, I think, is this game free? Was a price
Probably.
revealed?
I
I
don't know.
think so. Maybe.
Yeah, I
Actually,
mean,
maybe there is a price. I think I did see something about a price.
yeah, because and then now I'm thinking in my head, like, how do you make money? Because, that's the other thing. Showdown's
They
made
make you
by
buy each
fans.
Pokemon individually.
Oh,
I
God.
saw some
Don't
people
even
say
joke about that.
cosmetics, like making your Pokemon have costumes and stuff in battle.
Or your trainer. Yeah, I could see that, but yeah, that's the other concern too. Is this game has to be making money for Nintendo somehow? Showdown is made by the fans for the fans. It's not gonna ever turn a profit because then they'll get killed by the
It
lawyers.
just says now in development. I don't see anything on their website about a price
Hmm.
or anything like that.
I
It
swear
doesn't.
I
It
saw
Yeah,
definitely
something
doesn't say. It
about
doesn't
it
say
being
free to
like
play
a
either.
individual price, but not like a digital. I don't know.
yeah. I don't know. I think if it's a low enough price, people can still get into it, but it's gonna be. I don't know. I can't really see it realistically beating Showdown in every category without it being just a giant money sucker for Nintendo.
I wouldn't say it needs
Or,
to beat Showdown though, because
it doesn't
you
need to
know
beat Showdown.
Showdown has got a very specific audience of people who play it. I mean, a lot of people play it for the Smogon brackets. They don't really play it for the VGC stuff. They might do it a little bit, but I feel like this is more aimed at the VGC players because they're already making teams in their games, and they're going to be doing it regardless. A lot of them use those like Poke hacks stuff to get their teams to test them.
I love
But
my shiny legendaries from Machamps.com.
yeah, yeah, that's the kind of stuff they have.
I love
And
it.
then I think they do that, and then I think they make an actual team based off of the hacked ones they
Yeah.
use, maybe to be more legitimate. But I think this is a good way for the VGC players to test things out if it like allows you to make more customizable Pokemon. I don't think it needs to be like crazy with the customization because I don't think it needs to be Showdown exactly, but I think Showdown's always just going to be better because they can do whatever they want, and there's no limitations to what they can do,
I mean, on the
unless the
website it
lawyers shut them
says,
down.
yeah, on the website it says, feature familiar mechanics such as Pokemon types, abilities, and moves. So at the very least, you should be able to edit all of those things, I would assume. Again, I'm wondering if for hidden values for IV or EVs, I'm wondering if they just actually I think EVs they might just kind of make a flat thing like because with natures and stuff like that, you can kind of make it like, oh, I want lower speed or whatever like that. But
Hmm.
I really don't know. It really depends how much they kind of want to give away, and also how easy they want to make it to be. Because honestly, if you have an 8-year-old who likes Pokemon battling, but doesn't understand all the complexities of it, that might be too much for them to pick all the EV values. Like they might not it might not click in their head just yet.
Yeah. Do you guys think they're going to use this as like the VGC platform moving forward instead of like using the main games? Do you think they're like going to be like, oh, you can raise a team in the game, but you can add it to this Pokemon Champions game to battle? Because if that's the case, then you have to also consider all these gimmicks being available too as part of the new VGC. I mean, obviously they have regulations, so some things might not be like allowed in certain like rule sets, but still, I think it's interesting that they could allow all these past gimmicks.
I think that's a cool concept, but I feel like they would have. I mean, this is very early on. Like they don't have a release date. It just says now in
Yeah, that's
development.
fair.
I feel like they might have hinted or said something along those lines, rather than um just being what it is. It's honestly, I think it's even too early to say if I would like that or not. it's definitely a thing that they could do, and they definitely could ban specific Pokemon or make it like, maybe they have certain cups for certain specifically games, so only Pokemon that can be caught in that game are used. Maybe. Um, I think it definitely could be neat, because then maybe kids who don't have a Switch and have a phone or vice versa could play, um, could compete in the competitions where they might not have been able to before. So yeah, I think it's too early to say, but honestly, it might be cool. But I think they might have hinted at it as well if it was supposed to be that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it's a great way for Nintendo to make money if they do that.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but I honestly I don't know. I feel like if you're going to make something that enables like a lot more competitive possibilities, it makes sense to move there. On the other hand, I do think people are going to be outraged if they like, let's say we're sticking with the same old format, like it's all the Gen 9 stuff, like all that megas and stuff are banned from comp. There has to be a legitimate reason to actually make the players use it, like enabling those old mechanics to come back. If it's going to be the same battles that you could be having in Scarlet and Violet, but you're going to make people move over, I think that's going to piss people off.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, I'm not too sure what their plan is for that game. Hoping it's going to be pushed a lot more in the future. It's good to have kind of a companion game to Home, because I know a common complaint when Home was coming out was, a lot of Pokemon are trapped in there and they can't really do anything because there's a lot of games at the time that they couldn't be put in. So it's good to have a system where any future Pokemon, if they're not added to a future game, could have somewhere to like battle or like do something with besides just sit there and kind of rot in prison. Um, it's a good companion to that kind of system. Uh,
Hmm.
Going back to ZA, there was a couple more things I was curious about. What's your guys' opinion on like the setting of Lumio City? Like last time we were talking about this, you guys were pretty sure that it was going to be spread throughout Kalos. The game would be spread out throughout Kalos, and you'd find different Pokemon all over the region. It's confirmed, at least it seemingly is confirmed, that you stay only in the city, and there's giant quarantined areas in the city that you find wild Pokemon. Do you guys like that? I'm sure you're not the happiest, but I'm curious on your thoughts about it. If you think there is some light in the darkness there.
I mean, I think that once you see the map that they have on the ZA site, I think you can tell a lot better the scale of the city and how big it looks. So I think that kind of eases my mind a little bit, because when originally when they say like, it's going to be all in Lumio City and your only experience is playing it in X and Y, when you could use your bike to get around it in like a minute. You're like, I don't know if that's the best idea.
Mm,
But the way they have it set up, I think it will be enjoyable at the very least. Like, maybe not the best game they've ever made, probably not, but I think it'll be enjoyable. I mean, I don't think they did any DLC for Legends Arceus like they did for Sword and Shield or Scarlet and Violet, but I mean, in my head, I'm thinking that maybe they do um, DLC for sections outside the map. But now that I'm saying that out loud, there's so much map outside of this that sounds dumb. So
yeah, I don't know. They did have an update for Legends Arceus. There's like a Daybreak update, but that was it. Nothing
yeah,
else.
like they had that. Like I feel like they had like a tiny, like very small section that was added for that. Um, I don't know. It's one of Cynthia's ancestors or some the one who talked to you about Enamorus and Shaman, I think.
Yeah.
Like that was like minuscule, like not even really anything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Kalos. I mean, with the city being this size, I feel like if they made an entire map of this, it would have been enormous, which would be awesome, but would probably take them another like 5 years.
Yeah,
And to be
probably.
completely honest, as much as I like that they've been developing games for a long time, or like developing this game for longer than most games take, I am a little disappointed they didn't like tease anything new that they're working on, like even like a side thing with Ilka. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know people didn't love BDSP, but like I don't know, I'm glad that they aren't just like turning like random stuff out, but I'm also we have to wait and see, if this the size of the city. Again, the map makes it look pretty decent, but compared to an entire region, is this going to be like enough, or is the game going to be, quick quickly done? Like, are you gonna be able to finish? I think most Pokemon games take around like 24, like a whole day.
Maybe, yeah.
If I'm thinking off the top of my head, maybe if you go explore every look nook and cranny, it's more. Or maybe if you just battle through it with like your starter and nothing else, it takes less.
Hmm.
But that's kind of the one thing I'm like worried about is is it going to be too tedious where you're going to every single building in here looking for a specific task to get it done? Or is it going to be there's not enough to do? Like, is there going to be too many buildings that are just, door locked, not actually a real thing you go inside?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Because with Legends Arceus, you went all over the place. You had to catch every Pokemon, but like this one, I'm wondering if they're gonna have that, or if it's gonna. I think it might just be tedious. It's really hard to say.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern is just the environment becoming monotonous. I will say, I do think that the amount of like the scale they showed, it does look like a big city. Um, I mean, maybe that sounds stupid when I just say it like that, but like like you said, when you compare it to the size of the game, this looks like something you could play a full scale game in. My concern is I got to really see how interesting these zones are and just how much like I don't know architectural variety there is because I feel like playing in a city with a lot of samey like feels. A, it's going to be hard to navigate, and B, it's going to get old real fast. So I'm hoping they're
Mhm.
thinking about ways around that. I do think having those new expansion zones will help, but there's still a lot of city already built there. So I'm hoping they're keeping that in mind
And
as
some
they
of the
go along.
zones looked kind of small. Like the one, like it seemed like the first route they showed. Granted, it is the first one. It looked like you could see the end of it, like
Yeah.
in the trailer. Like it looked very short. And again, that might just be like a training route. That might just be like a little piece. But like my
Hmm.
main thing is like a pretty consistent thing in most Pokemon games is like I'd say even in Legends Arceus they have like the route going up towards the the temple at the
Yeah.
top of the mountain. Like pretty consistently, Pokemon games usually have like a Victory Road type thing where there's a bunch of tough trainers, like usually kind of more intense looking terrain, cooler, more leveled up, more evolved Pokemon. Like how do you fit that in here?
See, what I'm thinking is maybe we're just seeing an early version of the city because some people are thinking, oh, this is kind of more of a city builder kind of thing where you maybe you expand the zones and then it gives you more available Pokemon. I'm thinking maybe that'll be what it is you just keep building onto what already exists and increasing the size of the zone. Now, it did seem like the
Oh, okay.
zones were like in the city though, like they were surrounded by buildings. So
Yeah.
if that's the case, I don't know how that would work unless it like somehow switches to be like more on like the outer outskirts of the city. I don't know. It seems very strange, but maybe you're just building up the city on the outside too, and it kind of just allows it to expand. I'm not
Yeah,
really too sure.
I'm thinking they maybe let you build out a little bit, or maybe they let you like do venture out to like little zones, but like it's not going to be like they divide Kalos into five sections and you get to explore a fifth of it. Like maybe you get to go to um I don't remember a lot of the city names. It's been too long, but the uh like the second gym that's like on the beach, like maybe they let you go to like a
Yeah.
small section of that to catch the Pokemon or something. But like if they don't do that, like my main thought is like when you beat the games, usually there's either a section or I think sometimes they just turn all the Pokemon like level 60. Like I think once you go to like the Isle of Armor in the DLC, I think everything you find is 60 or higher.
Hmm.
How can you like I don't know how you can justify having level 60 Pokemon be wild in a city that's inhabited and not like having it be in a dangerous like taken over zone. Like you could have that be part of the story where you have to like help get rid of Pokemon that are destroying parts of the like but then how can you justify having level like wild Pokemon that are high level but not destroying the city constantly?
I can
I
feel this
don't know.
one. You want to make stronger citizens, and the weak ones will simply perish to the strong
Yes, it's
Pokemon.
wow, he solved it, guys.
Yep. I think martial law would be a great idea for this game.
Yeah.
Yep.
I see what you mean though. I feel like they kind of just wouldn't care. I feel like they would just throw those stronger Pokemon in. They are in like a bordered off zone, so it's kind of like they're like secluded from the rest of the city, kind of. So it's not the weirdest stretch to say that, oh, they're just like living in this area. I just trying to understand, like, the only zone I think we saw like a more of like a rugged zone where Sandile was and something
Hmm.
else.
Yeah.
And then we saw like a one with a pond and like a bridge. Um, I'm trying to
Yep.
wonder what about like the more like out there Pokemon, like ocean Pokemon or like snowy mountain Pokemon. Are they just gonna have a giant glacier in the middle of the sea? Like I don't understand how those are gonna be available.
Yeah,
These
it's two of
zones don't make
my
sense.
favorite Pokemon lines from this gen are the fossils, and I'm like, how are they gonna like? They ain't gonna make them in the wild, maybe they will. Maybe they'll do something like they did with the Crown Tundra, where they just have fossil Pokemon existing there.
Yeah, that's
But
Yeah, it's
like,
the
possible.
future.
there's
I
just
mean,
so many Pokemon. I don't know how they're gonna like. A lot of I think Scarlet and Violet, did a pretty good job of having a bunch of different habitats that were pretty. I don't know, maybe not seamless, but pretty decently like spaced out. Where it's not like they're right next to each other, like big climate change right next to each other.
Hmm.
For the most part, but like I don't know how like they have like a little sand area. Like it didn't look super huge from the video. Like I guess you kind of hit it right on the head. Like how are you gonna have icy Pokemon or cave? Like where are you
Yeah,
getting these
that's what I'm
guys from?
wondering. I don't know how they're gonna do that. It doesn't really make sense to me because those are very
Yeah.
specific environments. That I mean, it'd be
Mm.
cool if they just have like a giant like snow zone in the middle of the city, but I just don't feel like that would make sense, and it would also be really weird just to be walking around and seeing that. So, I mean, I do like
Yeah.
that they're making the city like gigantic. I think that's what their original plan was for X and Y when they were doing like concept art, is they wanted the city to be just like the biggest thing ever, like random alleyways, all kinds of cafes, like everything, just like tons of
Oh,
stuff.
it's definitely big enough in X and Y. I like when you have to find the cafes in that game. I'm like, you have
Mm-hmm.
to use the
oh
taxis, or
god.
I or
Yeah,
I wander around
and
aimlessly.
now
I'm
they
like,
just
dear God, where is this?
like tripled the size of the city, and it's a 3D game that you're running around. You know?
I honestly think that'll make it better because if the alleyways are like bigger than the size of your character, and the camera angle is like maneuverable, I
Yeah,
think it'll be less bad. But in X and Y, it was sometimes like really like, you'd either go all the way around the outside, or if you got stuck in the middle, it was confusing as hell.
yeah, it was kind of a pain in the ass. But I am excited to see what they do with the city. I think there's a lot they can do with Lumios just because it's so big and there's so many things they could put into it. Um, but we'll have to see what they decide. I'm not too sure, but I am excited to see what they do with the quarantine areas. What are your guys' opinions on the trainer characters and the? I think they're rivals, but they didn't really say rivals. Do you like their designs? Like, what's your opinion on them?
Yeah, I don't know. I still think they're kind of weak. I've said it once, I've said it again. I don't like this new trend they're doing. I think it started in Gen 9, I'm not positive, but I don't like when you just make the male and female protagonist characters basically just gender swaps with each other. I like when you give them a little more personality. You lean more into the fashions of, like whatever city it was before. Like by comparison, I think that, just even uh oh shit, I don't know the name. Was it Caleb and Serena? Is that the
Yeah,
name of the Gen 6
I think
trainers?
so.
It's really hard to remember those names. There's some weird ones in there, but I think they did a really good job of like capturing the feel of the city and whatnot. These guys look kind of samey, and honestly, they to me they kind of look like trainers that have already been customized, like with the hats, with like the fedora hats and the jackets that are they're black and green because it's ZA, but it just looks kind of mismatched. And honestly, I'm just not digging it at all. The rival design, a little, I don't know, a little better. Definitely think that they did a better job with, was it Tawny? Tawny's the girl,
Urbane,
Urbane's the guy?
Urbane, yeah.
Yeah. I think that the red shirt works better. I think the color palette just works a lot better with the brown jacket on Tawny than it does with Urbane. But they still look interesting enough. For rival characters. I honestly feel like the last few rivals have been kind of forgettable. So my expectations for the rival characters aren't as high as the protagonists. But I don't know. But like I said, it's Kalos. They should give you a lot of customization options. They should let you make something interesting, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. I will say I think like the art of the characters looks better than in the game because I think at least the green kind of looks fine with the art, but when you look at it in the game, it looks really saturated.
Mm.
I get that. Yeah, it was supposed to be like the Zygarde, like black and green, but I think they could have done a better job on that. And I do agree that they should make them a little different rather than having them just kind of have the exact same design. I that being said, I do think that the female trainer is a little better. Maybe I'd like her hat more, that it's not the exact same color as her hair, or that she's not wearing skinny jeans. I don't know. The guy looks a little twiggy, uh, because of that.
Yeah. They
That's
should
how
be
I'm
buff
phrasing
like
it,
fucking a
apparently.
JoJo protagonist.
Yeah,
Fucking
yes,
hulking
that's what I'm
around.
saying. All right. Um, but yeah, I think those are pretty good. I will say though, I feel like they've kind of stepped away from rivals just in general. I mean, I feel like they just have like friends now. Like in Gen 4, they had Barry was your rival, like he was your rival, but he's also your friend. I think they did a good job of that, where he was like your friend, but he also was like very competitive and wanted to beat you. And then you have like in Gen 8, you have like freaking Hop, who's like this wimpy freaking loser. I hate that guy.
I could not
I don't know.
distinguish what is different between How and Hop, like personality wise, in my
Two
head.
letters.
They literally just seem like the same character.
How
to
is a
me.
little more like happy-go-lucky, like doesn't care what's
Yeah,
going
I
on.
like him more. He's definitely
Hop
better.
is like, I need to be like my older brother, but then he loses every match. So then
Sorry,
you're like,
who's even the rival from?
Just like his older brother when I
Oh,
battle
it's
him.
Nimona. She's
Nomona's actually pretty
okay.
good.
I
I like
will say
Nimona.
I think most things about Gen 9 is a step up from Gen 8. I think the character, even though these two characters look similar, I think it's a step up definitely from Gen 8 or 9. They look. I know I know this game is for children, but also having a 10-year-old or someone who looks like an actual 10-year-old, toppling crime organizations or whatever is kind of weird. Like I think if you shoot for someone who looks like a teenager, you can have it enjoyed by both sides. But I think that one just looked a little weird, especially because I felt like Nimona kind of looked more as like what you would expect. But I think they've been
Mhm.
doing.
Yeah, I
I
can
think
see
this is
that.
a better job than what they did last gen for the main trainers. Nimona was a better rival than Gen 8 for sure. These ones will kind of have to see, but I think their designs are fine. I don't dislike having two different ones. Um, Based off of your like I don't know, it's kind of whatever to me. I don't dislike it. I'm not like, oh, that's a great idea. Um, I was kind of fine just having the one, but I think it's a I don't know, trying something new. But I think their designs I both think are actually pretty solid. Um, I think maybe it's a little weird that their hair color kind of almost matches their skin color in the game. Because again, the art that they do for the games always looks so good. But sometimes when stuff is transitioned to 3D models, as we all know, it doesn't always work out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the trainers are decent, definitely not, top tier, but I think they're solid. I think it's a step in the right direction from where we were at.
Yeah.
And I think that they definitely stepped away from rivals being like, I mean, Gen 2 you had Gen 2 you had someone who was a literal a thief.
Yeah, and that was awesome.
Like a real criminal, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they've actually had a legitimate rival character since Gen 2. Like, if you really think about it, Gen 4,
Well,
Gen
what about
3,
5?
5 kind of, Sharon is kind of a rival.
Yeah,
I don't
he's
count
he's a,
N. I don't count that guy. I don't consider him a rival, but I know some people do.
Who's the one from Black and White
he's
too?
in a weird middle ground.
Yeah.
Where his sister's pet gets stolen.
Oh my gosh. Hugh.
What's his
Actually,
name?
I will agree.
Oh,
Hugh does feel like a rival. I'll say that.
Yes.
But I do not
I
think
think you can
that.
do it. You can do both. You can have one be your friend and your rival. They've done it and they've done it well before, but they have not hit that mark in a long time.
Yeah.
yeah. I don't mind having multiple rivals either. I mean,
No. Don't say
4
that.
was
Don't
too
say
many.
that.
No.
Gen
They're
6
bringing 'em
was
back.
horrible.
Bringing 'em back.
Gen 6 went overboard. I think we
It
can all
was
agree
so
on that.
bad.
But like having Bianca and Sharon was fun, and honestly, it felt
Oh yeah,
nice
that was
having
fine.
like having each of the starter Pokemon used. I thought that was a nice touch.
Sean is coming
It was
back.
just okay. The other problem, maybe
Serena
it
and
would.
Shauna were fine. The other two,
I don't like
they could have.
Shauna. Tierno and Trevor.
How do
I
you
think
remember their
Tierno was honestly
names?
probably my second
Genuinely.
favorite because you have Serena or whichever character you didn't pick.
Yeah.
Like that one's obviously there. Honestly, Tierno might have been like my second favorite because he was kind of funny. He had like a core fish. I liked him. But
Corfish.
He just
I wish I could like remove him from existence.
he just started breakdancing randomly with his like Pokemon. I'm
It
like,
was kind
what
of
is
funny
this
at
guy
least.
doing?
Honestly, maybe having multiple rivals wouldn't be so bad if their teams weren't. I think it was just something worked really poorly, like negative synergy with just how piss easy the game was. Because what's the fun of fighting all these new different teams if you're just going to wipe them out the exact same way? If the game was challenging, maybe it
I
would
think
have been a
Shauna had
better
like an
idea.
actual team, but like I think the other two did not really have actual
No,
teams.
no, they were. The dude had a core fish.
I think
It was
Trevor
too
might have had a
much.
team. I remember him having some kind of substantial team.
I feel like Trevor had like three Pokemon max.
Maybe that's right. Actually, that does sound
I
right.
could be completely wrong,
Well,
but I don't
that's
know.
pretty much all trainers in that game. So
Yeah,
uh,
that's fair.
yeah, I don't know. I think those were probably the weakest rivals that we've ever had. Maybe actually Hop might be worse. Actually,
Yeah.
at least Hop is a slightly okay storyline. It's if you pay attention, which most people didn't. Um, but
What
other than
about
that,
Wally? We all love
okay,
Wally.
let's be real. Anyone who says Wally's a good rival is just the most nostalgia blind person on the planet because that
I know,
character
right?
that doesn't have any character arc or anything. You see him like two times and then you see him in the victory route and then you're just like, that's it. There's no
Do you
story to him.
you fight him more in Auras, or am I
Maybe
misremembering
Maybe
that?
one
once.
more time.
Yeah, maybe once. I don't know. He has at least a Mega Gallade in that game, which is cool, but
Yeah.
that's like the
Yeah.
only notable feature about Wally. He's like the most like I don't even understand why he's in the game, to be honest. I've never understood him. He's the most weird character ever because he doesn't do anything the entire time. And May and Brendan in that game are I don't know. There's like one good battle with them at that bridge, and then after that, it's just like
Yeah.
whatever. You don't even see their final starter. Like that's how like bad the rival was in
Yeah,
Gen
that's
3.
crazy.
Mhm.
Barry was okay in Gen 4. I do think he was better than Gen 3, but
I'm gonna find you 1 million Poké Dollars.
Thud.
yeah, he's got
At
some
least
funny
he at
stuff.
least he was memorable. Like he was just some
And he's got a good
kid off
team
his
too.
kid off his ADHD meds. It was funny.
Yeah.
um, Gen 5, Bianca and Sharon, they're okay. I mean, nothing crazy there.
They were fine. It was nice to
Yeah.
have like kind of the contrast between the two.
Mm-hmm. Then you got Hugh. He's a good one, but um, he's probably the best one we've had recently. And that's a long shot saying recently, since that was more than 10 years ago. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of decent rivals that were made, but I don't think any of them were like rivals since like Gen 2.
It's
Truly.
been a hot minute, yeah.
I don't know. Um, what do you guys think about the new TCG Pocket that was revealed, the Triumphant Light Pack? Tyler, I'm sure you have a lot to say about this.
Oh
I'm gonna
boy,
interject. My
do
pack
I.
sucked. This game sucks. I hate it.
Yeah. So I think it's pretty great because my second pack got the immersion Arceus, so I'm very happy about that. Um, as for the cards, I think there's a lot of new interesting stuff here. I said before, Irida, they've made a card now that is basically an Erica for your entire bench if they have water energy, which is it seems like good for water types at first, but then you got to realize how much potential there is there. I mean, we found already that like using the genetic apex magneton, you can just set up magnezone using any type of energy without needing electric in it at all. Plus you've got the Yanmega EX and all those colors ones. I think this is gonna like really I think we're gonna see some really interesting decks built out of this around this card, because now you can just kind of use water energy with all these weird cards, have a lot of different type mixtures, not necessarily make yourself vulnerable to just one thing. I think this is going to be a really interesting meta development. Leafy on EX2 is an interesting card too. It gives itself its own grass energy, so it could work there, but it's also good for, works well in conjunction with Celebi EX and other grass type Pokemon. I think I've seen some people run it with Venusaur EX as well, getting that big tanky Pokemon up right away. Um, the new Garchomp EX seems all right. I mean, it gets a one energy attack that can hit the bench for 50. I think that's pretty solid. Its final attack's still only 100, And I'm not positive on this, but based on the phrasing of the card, I don't think that Cynthia support card actually helps Garchomp EX. I think that only works with regular Garchomp. So that one might not be quite as good. I still think people are going to use it because people love Garchomp.
Mm,
The Probobass will probably work well in conjunction with Dialga. 90 damage is amazing, but given that it has 160 health and that it can reduce 30 damage each time it hits an attack, and then you've got the what is this person's name? Blue person from Legends Arceus. Help me out here.
Edamon or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the one. You could do minus 20 to all your steel types for a turn twice if you've got two of the cards. So the thing can probably wall stuff pretty well.
Yeah.
Something else that's really interesting that I found. So apparently there's a Celestic Town Elder trainer card now.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that Mew Explorer having a full art was weird. Now there's just a fucking full art. It's just somebody's grandma. Uh,
That's a
but yeah, no,
character from Diamond and Pearl, though, because that was the
yeah,
Cynthia's grandma, I think.
yeah, that's correct. It says Town Elder, I think. And then Barry's got some interesting potential too, because now you can do like 3 or 4 energy attacks with 1 or 2 energy. Because for just like a temporary thing, you can attack with 2 less energy. Kind of crazy with it working on Staraptor, because Staraptor Brave Bird does 130. So now theoretically, if you set it up in the back, you could do 130 damage one turn with 1 energy, which is, I think, something only like what Rampardos could do.
Yeah.
It's still interesting, and I would say this is probably better in the long run because it has less drawbacks. But yeah, plenty of new interesting cards here to work with. Giratina got shafted again. The devs fucking hate him. They gave him Grass Psychic Energy move, 3 energy for 120, and then you have to discard 2 random energy.
Yeah, that's bad.
So basically, you're either running the weirdest fucking deck of all time to use a subpar Pokemon, or you're running like, I don't know, Leafeon and Gardevoir deck just to make this work. It's not going to work. It's sad, but Giratina will not be usable.
Yeah, it's got shafted again.
Yeah, and the new mechanic with all the Arceus stuff is pretty cool too. Like all the little abilities that work with it. I mean, making a Raichu that gets minus 30 damage for having Arceus on the field is pretty nice because things usually typically pretty frail.
Yeah, do you think those are
Uh,
actually going to get used, the Arceus EX decks?
I think so. I mean, because the Arceus EX card, 70 for 3 energy doesn't sound good at first, but it just depends on bench Pokemon, and it can get up to 130 if you've got a full party. 130 is pretty solid for something that doesn't really have drawbacks. I mean, you could argue having Pokemon on the bench is a slight like nerf, but I don't think it's a. Honestly, I think it'll work enough. I think that there's some good things here that they can do, like I mean, the Magnezone's never going to get used. The Arceus Magnezone is just always gonna. No one's going to use that over the fucking 110 power generate your own electricity set that people have been using for the past meta.
Mm-hmm.
But Heatran with no retreat cost, the Crobat that could do 30 damage from like to the active Pokemon, even from the bench. Like, there's some interesting combinations here. People are going to need time to figure it out, but I think this is gonna be a really interesting meta.
Yeah, sounds like it. I don't know too much about the current one, and it feels like all the steel type cards are not very good. Every time a new one comes out, I'm like, yeah, these don't seem like they're amazing. There's
Uh,
the Dialga one seemed kind of good, but I don't know. Not the new one, the
uh,
one from the last set, the EX
oh
one.
yeah, no, that one's saving the steel type as a whole. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean that one's helping Melmetal out a lot too. I mean the new cards are just not. I mean the Bronzong is basically just a worse Jinx, or I don't know, worse Alakazam, worse Exeggutor. It's 3 energy for an attack that does more damage for whatever energy your opponent has, but 3 for 50 as a base is just not enough compared to what the alternatives are. I talked about the Promo Pass. I think that one will be okay. The Mawile is an interesting one. I don't know why they made a Mawile that does more damage to other steel types. I think that's completely fucking useless if I'm going to be real with you. It's so situational, and
yeah,
Skarmory exists. Like, I can't see why you'd use it. What I think is funny is fire types basically they got Heatran and they got the Houndoom line, which is Houndoom. The Houndoom line is basically just the Arbok in the pocket, but it's fire type. So maybe a little interesting stuff there, but there were like two fire types in the last pack too, so not much change in there, unfortunately. I mean, like I said, Heatran will work well with Arceus, but I don't know. Still going to be tough for fire types, I think.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they get better. Joe, what's your opinion
Yeah.
on these cards?
I think they look neat.
Yeah.
I don't
Well
really
said.
care for battling all that much. Although I don't really have many cards to talk about because the first pack I opened gave me a duplicate immediately.
Hey, two Magnetons. Pretty cool.
Magneton is not a cool card.
No, not the one you got, anyways. You got the Magneton that will never be used.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I really just like the game for collecting the cool arts and looking at stuff like that. I mean, that's the main reason I collect physical Pokemon cards too. So,
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
I mean, yeah. So I think a lot of them have cool arts. I mean, that's the main thing I always just look at. I do play a little bit, but honestly, most of my decks are pretty simple. So,
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I liked Genetic Apex's meta a lot more, but then once new stuff came out, I just kind of lost interest slightly. Especially with Celebi EX, that thing was busted.
I think you can rush it down well enough now, especially with all the new options you have. I think it's
Yeah,
fallen off a
apparently.
little bit. I think, yeah, honestly, the meta's just been so heavily dominated by like Darkrai and Magnezone right now that I think there's like in the competitive scene, there's like maybe one Celebi user. And honestly, Celebi's kind of carried by Executor EX just being such a good wall. It's crazy.
Mm.
But no, it's I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting. It's gonna be interesting.
Yep. Well, that was most of the major news from the Pokemon Presents. Obviously, there was a lot of smaller stuff, but none of it was
Yeah, why aren't we
too.
talking about Masters EX?
Because I don't care. Oh, wow, they had the Primal Kyogre Groudon. It's not like they
Yeah,
haven't done Mega Rayquaza already or something. No,
you know,
never.
I got so excited when I saw that, and I was like, "Oh, Masters, right?"
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh well.
Let me think about what else was released. Oh, Suicune for Unite. Pokemon Go has some
Hmm.
event going on. I don't know what. Unova
Black
something.
Hero, let's
Oh yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah. Sleep has Darkrai Cresselia event. What other games are there that are spin-offs? Cafe Remix. What was that? I don't even know what they had for that. I don't really care. I never played that game.
Whatever happened to Pokemon Rumble and Shuffle and Quest?
In Mystery Dungeon. And
Gone with the way of the dino.
actually, Quest is still being made. People in China play it a lot, apparently.
Oh really?
All right.
Yeah, they have a
That's
couple
interesting.
gens. They also have shinies, which is interesting.
I think I played when they a little bit when they added shinies, but I don't think I ever played when they added more than Gen 1 Pokemon.
Yeah, I think they have Gen 2. I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
know.
a little surprised they didn't announce anything, like no spin-off like Mystery Dungeon, which would have been cool. No side thing with Ilka or anything. Like I'm hoping we get something like next time we get a presents when they do more news about this game, I'm hoping we get something like a teaser for like, hey, here's what we're working on. I hope we don't have to
Yeah.
wait till next year. I mean, because it was a whole year without news about this game. It was we're working on it with a trailer, I guess, that had no gameplay, and then it was a whole year before we heard anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a long
So
time.
I'm hoping we find out sometime this year, maybe during the summer, something they have planned.
Sometimes they
Even
have
if it is like
a
Mystery Dungeon.
sometimes they have a presents in August. There's been a couple of those.
Yeah, I was
So
trying to remember if it was July or August.
yeah, sometimes they have one. So I mean, I hopefully they do because I do think they need to have. I want to see more like projects in the works. I don't know what that could be, but I'm hoping for Mystery Dungeon. But
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be main game. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Like
Would
I
be
just
nice
want
to
to
have
see what's
another
happening.
mystery dungeon.
yeah. Too bad they didn't announce it. Oh well, though. They are done with that franchise. They made two bad games, and they're like, all right, we're done. We'll make a remake, and that's all you get. Um,
That
So
might
yeah,
be true.
I think this next couple, I don't know. They said late 2025 was the release date of Legends Arceus. So these next like 9 months ish are gonna be pretty important for this game. I think the hype with the starters is pretty much all we have. I feel like the gameplay is intriguing, but I don't think it's enough to draw people in a lot. I think the Mega revealing a new Mega would have done that. Sadly, we didn't get to see anything, but I think this like if they start releasing little tidbits of like new Megas and new regional forms and stuff, I think the hype train's gonna start picking up. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had for this Pokemon Presents news. Do you guys have anything else to say?
The last thing was the last thing they showed for ZA, that like last kind of I don't even want to call it an announcement. Does anybody know what that was? Because I
Yeah,
don't know a single person
no clue.
who like I watched a bunch of reactions. Nobody knows what that was.
Yeah,
That last little teaser at the end, it should have been maybe just a silhouette of a new Mega or like something. But like they
yeah,
gave us something where everybody at the end was just confused. And then it was over. And they're like, but wait, black screen, they're gonna do something else. And then it never came. Like they did say it was the final thing, but they left us on a cliffhanger that nobody knew what it was.
yeah. That was weird. I don't really know what that was.
Like
So
in my head,
And
I'm like, oh, is that like the thing from well, but that's from Black and White too, I think, where like you could fight old like gym leaders and stuff like but
oh,
that was
World
from Black and
Tournament.
White too. So
oh,
yeah,
that would be
so
Yeah.
maybe
fun.
that, but like that wasn't from that game, so then I thought I was like kind of making stuff up. But yeah, I don't know a single person who has a clue as to what that was.
Yeah, no clue.
And it's got you talking about it, though, doesn't it?
Not
Got
for
you
long. That's all I
interested.
had.
Do you have anything, Tyler?
Yeah, I was shocked they didn't show any new megas, but you know what? I'm gonna stay optimistic. I'm hoping they give it to the, Pokemon that are weaker that deserve it. Uh, and I'll be, keeping my eye on it.
All right. Well, thanks guys for coming in and talking about this. I think we're all pretty excited to see what's next for Pokemon Legends ZA and also Champions. Curious to see where that goes. But thanks for talking and say goodbye. Adios.
Have a good
See ya.
night.